I never expected to find love while pretending to be broke, but her kindness shattered my heart. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The rain poured down like a million tiny daggers, each drop hit me hard, sharp and unforgiving. I was standing in the crowded subway, the air thick with despair and the scent of sweat and metal. My heart raced, not from the thrill of the city, but from the weight of my hidden truth that I was deep in trouble, lost all my savings in a gamble gone wrong. My hands trembled as I gripped the crumpled dollar bills in my pocket, counting my last few cents like they were precious gems. No one knew my secret. Not my friends, not my family. The smile I wore was a mask, thin and fragile. Every laugh was a hollow echo. Then, she appeared. A vision of light amidst the chaos. Her laughter danced through the crowd, refreshing and warm. It soothed my tired soul. She was helping an old man navigate the stairs, her kindness flowing so effortlessly. I felt something draw me toward her, an invisible thread. I could feel my heart thumping wildly, pounding against my chest. Who was she? How could someone be so selfless in a city filled with shadows? I wanted to know her. Needed to know her. But who was I? A broke nobody hiding behind a facade. Each moment spent getting closer to her made my heart race with a mix of hope and fear. Would she see through my mask? Would she still be kind to me if she knew the truth? The tension built inside me, a storm ready to break. Just then, a man brushed past me, sneering as he caught the glimpse of my worn shoes. A collective gasp erupted from the crowd. My face burned red. The whispers echoed in my ears, got heavier. Pathetic look at him, my hands balled into fists, nails digging into my palm as I fought the urge to crumble. Why did it hurt so much? But then she turned towards me, her eyes sparkling like the sun breaking through the clouds. For a moment, I forgot about the stares, the whispers. She smiled, and my world spun. It was a smile filled with warmth, a kindness I craved more than air. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice soft and genuine. My heart stuttered. But before I could answer, the train doors whooshed open. A wave of frantic energy surged as people spilled out and rushed in. She was swallowed by the crowd, and my moment of courage faded like smoke. I felt her light slip away. I staggered back, uncertainty clawing at my gut. Did I miss my chance? Was I destined to remain lost in the shadows? As I stood there, the world around me blurred. I could still see her face in my mind, the way her laughter sounded. I clenched my jaw, fighting the tears. I couldn't let this moment slip away. I had to find her. But what if she never wanted to see me again? A shiver of fear coursed through me as the subway started moving again. Would I ever have the courage to approach her? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The echo of the subway train faded into the dull hum of city life as I stepped onto the platform. I could feel the weight of my secret pressing down on my shoulders, threatening to crush me under its intensity. The faces around me blurred into an indistinguishable mass of indifference, yet my heart yearned for just one connection, one moment that could tether me to hope that I didn't know if I would see her again. The thought made my heart ache. Desperation gripped me as I navigated through the throngs of people, each step a question. Where was she now? I took to wandering the city, the cold rain continuing to fall, mingling with my unspent tears. It wasn't long before I found myself standing outside a small cafe, its warm glow spilling onto the damp pavement like a beacon in the dark. I stepped inside, hoping to find comfort in a steaming cup of coffee, but all I found was a swirl of thoughts that wouldn't settle. As I waited in line, I buzzed with anxiety. My foot tapped against the floor, a metronome for the chaos within me. Just a few moments ago, I felt the spark of a connection, and now I felt more lost than ever. The barista handed me my coffee, and I moved to the edge of the cafe, seeking a spot away from prying eyes. That's when I noticed a table in the corner occupied by a couple. They were laughing, their bodies leaning in close, wrapped in a world forged by sweet exchanges and shared glances. I felt a pang of envy wash over me, a reminder of what I desperately desired yet felt unworthy of. As I sipped my coffee, the memory of her smile washed over me again, a warmth seeping into my heart. It ignited a flicker of courage. I had to find her. I couldn't just let this opportunity slip away. But just as the resolve inside me began to solidify, the cafe door swung open and my heart leapt into my throat. It wasn't her. A different girl pushed her way inside, her face radiant despite the weather. She was soaking wet, laughter spilling from her lips as she shook her hair like a dog fresh from a bath. A group of friends followed, their boisterous energy electrifying the space, and for a moment, I lost myself in their contagious joy, but amidst them, I noticed a small act of kindness. She reached into her pocket and pulled out an extra pair of dry socks. She playfully thrust them at her friend, who had neglected to prepare for the sudden downpour. The delighted squeal that followed reminded me of the kindness I had witnessed before, that same warmth radiating from the girl who had captivated my heart. As if the universe responded to that thought, the door opened again and in stepped a vision I couldn't believe. She hadn't changed, it was the same girl with the dancing laughter. The chaos in my heart quieted, replaced by trembling hope. I wanted to rush forward, to bridge the distance closing in between us, but doubt wrapped around my feet like roots. What would I say? How could I possibly let her see the shadows that loomed behind my smile? She spotted me across the room and, just for a moment, our eyes locked. Her breath caught, mirroring my own surprise. I felt a wave of warmth wash over me that I couldn't explain, but it was soon dampened by the realization that my reality stood starkly against her light. That I turned away, feeling conflicted. Hiding behind my coffee cup, I thought about the lies I wore like a second skin. What if she knew? What kind of person would she think I am? Desperation surged, I couldn't let this chance slip away. I had to face her. The risk was worth it. Gathering every ounce of courage, I took a steadying breath, ready to make my move. But just as I stepped forward, a loud crash rang through the cafe. My heart stopped as the group I had admired moments before spilled into chaos, their laughter shattered by a tray of coffee tumbling to the ground, startling everyone around. In an instant, my decision to approach her disappeared. The room sent ripples of confusion and concern swirling around me. The girl with the vibrant laughter knelt to help clean up the mess, her kindness shining through the debris. I felt my stomach twist in painful knots as I realized watching her help others only reminded me of how trapped I felt by my own choices. And then, as fate would have it, she looked back at me, her eyes searching my face. "Hey, are you all right?" Her voice cut through the turmoil, wrapping around my heart. In that moment, my secret burden felt impossibly heavy, yet the light in her gaze was just enough to flicker with hope. But before I could respond, a commotion erupted again. "What are we going to do? We're supposed to meet them." A friend shouted, panic brewing as a new revelation knocked like a thunderclap. I froze, my heart racing. What meeting? The question hung in the air like a fragile thread. All I knew was that it hadn't just been a cacophony of laughter, there was something more, a secret, perhaps something that could unravel everything, and hope still hung in the air, unwritten and uncertain. My heart thudded painfully in my chest as I stood frozen, suspended between the truth I was desperate to hide and the girl who offered kindness more precious than gold. I took a step back, the shadows creeping back in as my mind spiraled for a moment. What did this really mean? And could I survive revealing who I really was? The warmth of the cafe, once a refuge, now felt stifling, as if all the air had been sucked from the room, leaving only an ache in my chest. The laughter that had filled the space moments before now echoed like a siren's call, a painful reminder of the connections I desperately sought but could never truly claim. I wanted to be part of it, laugh and to belong, but the gnawing discomfort of my own secrets pulled me away, churning through my stomach like a relentless tide. Before I could process what was happening, the girl in the vibrant laughter swept back into action, a flurry of movement amidst the chaos. She leaned down to help her friend, her graceful hands gathering the remnants of coffee cups while her smile never faltered. The clamor subsided as others joined in the effort, a small army uniting to right the overturned tray of drinks, yet to me, their efforts felt futile against the storm raging within my soul. Are you sure you're okay? She was suddenly close again, her voice soft yet tinged with undeniable concern, cutting through the din like a beacon that I fought to return the smile she wore so effortlessly, but my facade felt taut, threatening to splinter at the slightest touch. Yeah, just a little distracted by the, excitement, I stammered, each word settling heavily on my tongue. The lie tasted bitter, but the moment felt precious, and I wanted nothing more than to sustain it. Her brows furrowed slightly, and I could see the curiosity swirling in her bright eyes. My heart lurched as I sensed her seeking deeper, wanting more than my flimsy response. I get it, she said, her voice gentle. Sometimes life throws you unexpected surprises. You just have to roll with it, right? I nodded, marveling at her ability to find light in even the murkiest of situations. Yet the truth pressed against me like a vice. I had been rolling through life, dodging the mess I'd created while wearing a mask of normalcy. What happened if she ripped it off? Just then, her phone buzzed loudly on the table, breaking the spell. She fished it out, her fingers flying over the screen. Oh no, it's my group. We were supposed to meet by the park for this art event in 10 minutes. Her eyes widened in panic, and I caught a glimpse of anxiety weaving through her kind demeanor. I am so sorry, I blurted out, my stomach twisting with a fresh sense of urgency. I can help. I can take you. My voice, firm yet tinged with desperation, surprised even me. The better part of me wanted to retriado shield my heart from the impending impact of watching her walk away again, but the idea of her fleeing into the rain while I stayed behind, a mere shadow of whom I wanted to be, pushed me forward. Really? She blinked, taken aback by the offer. I could see the glimmer of hope in her eyes, quickly mired by uncertainty. Yeah. I can take a quick detour on my way home. I mean, I'd love to go with you. Live art sounds amazing, I added, desperation carving the enthusiasm in my voice. Relief washed across her features, banishing the shadows of worry. Okay, let's do it. She exclaimed, that dazzling smile returning. I'm Leah, by the way. Martin, I replied, catching her warmth like a lifeline. But no sooner had those words escaped my lips than the gauntlet of fear tightened around my heart. I was meeting her in an entirely new setting, leaving the secure familiarity of the cafe and venturing into the open world with my secrets looming like storm clouds overhead. Yet as we stepped outside and the cold rain began to splatter against the ground once more, I found myself swept up in her excitement. Leah titters beside me, her laughter echoing like melody, beckoning me to join her. It felt miraculous, an unraveling promise amidst the thrum of city life bustling around us. Come on. She urged, tugging my arm, and before I could second-guess myself, I was jogging beside her, weaving through pedestrians, splashing into puddles and laughing together. In the haze, the weight of my secret beat in a sorrowful cadence, but alongside Leah, it felt just a touch lighter. The park appeared ahead, block after block, revealing a romance of colors, brush strokes of every shade on canvas, artists mingling under umbrellas, captivated by the lively spirit of the world around them. We entered the clearing, overwhelmed by creativity bursting forth in stunning displays, and all at once, I could feel the tension of the day start to slip away. Leah's face lit up as she beheld the sight before us. This is incredible. She beamed, spinning in delight, and I could only nod, caught up in her radiance once more, but the twist of fate was waiting for me. As we wandered toward a booth, a familiar face emerged from the crowd of figures shrouded in uncertainty, drawn by a shared spark of nostalgia. I felt the air change, the world tilt, and dread washed over me as recognition flooded in. Before I could gather my thoughts, the truth I thought I could protect now loomed like a thunderhead, dark and brewing, threatening to expose everything I had fought so hard to conceal, Martin. The voice crisped through the air, slicing through the vibrant chaos like a knife. My heart raced as I turned slowly, the weight of my life crashing onto me in that single moment of recognition: an old friend, a letter lost in time, and a past that now felt inescapable. In that instant, everything teetered on the edge of revelation, my fear entwined with dread over what might come next. Would my secrets unravel before Leah? Would the kindness that had drawn me to her shatter under the weight of the truth? My breath hitched, caught in the riveting expectation of what was to come, stark against the backdrop of a canvas still leaving its mark. The world around me dulled, the vibrant colors of the park melting into a surreal haze as the familiar face pressed its way into the forefront of my mind. Time seemed to stretch impossibly, and the laughter of the other attendees faded into the background. I felt a pulse in my ears, the thudding of my heart echoing the unsaid questions hanging heavily in the air. "What are you doing here?" I wanted to scream, but the words stuck in my throat, wrapped up with the fear that had become second nature to me. The past unfolded like an old, crumpled letter forgotten in a drawer. It was not just any old friend, it was Marcus, the closest thing I had once had to family, the person who had shared my burdens and secrets. The very person whose departure had marked the beginning of my retreat into silence. I had made so many choices to outrun the pain, to reinvent myself in the eyes of everyone I met. But here he was, an unexpected guest in a story I thought I had rewritten without him. Leah's voice broke through the haze. "Do you know him?" she asked, her bright eyes flickering between confusion and concern. The warmth that once felt inviting now encased me in ice. What could I possibly say? I stole a glance at Marcus, whose gaze was searching mine, perhaps for the ghost of camaraderie once shared, now woven with bewilderment. Yeah, I replied, the words slipping out like a feeble confession. We used to be friends." The truth, however incomplete, had begun to spill, and I could feel the inevitable weight of the story begging to be told. "Friends? You look surprised to see him," Leah prodded gently, her curiosity wrapped in kindness, but all I could muster was silence. How could I explain the thorns that lay coiled within our history? How could I tell her about the years of hurt, the regrets festering like wounds too deep to stitch? Marcus stepped closer, his expression both gentle and hesitant. "Martin," he began, his voice a low rumble, aimed at bridging the chasm that time had carved between us. "It's been a long time." "Yeah," I managed, choking on the sudden memories of laughter turned into arguments. "The night he left, the dimly lit streets I wandered alone afterward, feeling more like a prison than a path to freedom." Leah observed us from the sidelines, and I could see her processing the tension uncoiling between us like a dark snake ready to strike. There was an urgency in her gaze, a desire to help, yet she stood anchored, waiting for my lead. Behind her concern, I sensed fear of the truth as it ripped my fractured past into the present moment like a patchwork quilt unraveling at the seams. "That I didn't expect to see you here," Marcus continued, a hint of an apology wrapped in his tone. "I thought you'd moved on." His words dripped with unspoken regret, igniting embers of anger I had buried deep. "What do you mean by that?" The edge in my voice was sharp, a built-up wall cracking under the weight of unsaid words. "You seem to have gotten past it all just fine." That a flicker of pain flared in his eyes, and I felt Leah take a tentative step closer to me, her presence grounding yet suddenly overwhelming. I wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it, but I could feel her warmth, offering solace even as my world began to teeter on its axis. "That I didn't mean to imply anything," Marcus replied, his voice calm and earnest. "I miss you. I've always missed you. We had something good, Martin, and I know things got complicated, but I thought maybe we could talk." "Talk?" I laughed, a hollow sound that shattered the air. "After everything? You left without a word, Marcus." The hurt spilled forth, uncontrollable, liberating, but laced with confusion. Could I trust him again? Did I even want to? A sense of betrayal gnawed at me. "Let's not do this here," he implored, concern dancing through his eyes as people milled by and painted their strokes on the enriching canvas of creativity surrounding us. But I couldn't move. I was anchored by Leah's presence, and yet I felt the pull to confront the man who stood before me. "Please, Martin. Just give me a chance to explain." This isn't just about us anymore, maybe it never was. His sincerity momentarily pierced the haze of bitterness. Leah quietly squeezed my arm, her touch steadying my tumultuous thoughts. It's your choice, she said softly, her gaze unwavering, creating a space where I could breathe through the storm that I hesitated, torn between the path of honesty and the fear of unmasking the scars that had shaped my life. The city swirled around us, unaware of the tempest brewing in that small gathering of friends turned strangers. I could sense Leah's heart pulsating in tune with mine, an unbreakable bond forged in the moments of laughter amidst sorrow. Just then, I noticed something in her eyes, a flicker of understanding, a pleading for me to open up, to invite her into the very depths I wanted to hide. Her presence ignited a small spark, tempting me to choose vulnerability, even if it meant risking everything, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed violently against my thigh, drawing us all back to reality. I glanced down, my heart sinking as I read the screen. It was a message from my landlord, a reminder of an eviction notice I had received just last week, one that seemed to loom like a shadow over every new chance I dared to grasp. My heart raced, panic clawing at the edges of my carefully constructed armor. I was already on the edge, and now this another weight added to the precarious balance of my life. The truth felt heavier than ever, and as I looked between Marcus' hopeful expression and Leah's soft encouragement, I felt myself teetering on the edge of a terrible collapse. In that moment, everything hung suspended like paint on a palette, waiting to fall. Would I take the leap into the unknown? Would I unmask my pain, allowing Leah the chance to see beyond the facade? Or would I shield my heart from the light she offered, retreating once again into the shadows? The message blinked ominously on my screen, demanding my attention, as an even deeper storm brewed on the horizon, threatening to reveal the hidden currents of my life just as the clouds threatened to open with rain. Choices lay before me, inviting me to either forge ahead or surrender to despair, making it feel as though the weight of the world rested squarely on my shoulders. The weight of the message lingered, a dark cloud above me spreading its shadow over the fragile moment between us. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to breathe, desperate for clarity as the world swirled around like confetti caught in a bitter wind. Tell her, I thought. Tell both of them. But the words hung heavy in my throat, caught in the tumult of rising anxiety and shame. Leah's eyes were bright with concern, attempting to read the shadows crossing my face. Martin, are you okay? Her voice was a gentle anchor, yet it pushed me towards the abyss. How could I tell her that my life felt like a house of cards, ready to topple with the slightest misstep? I hated that she could see me weak, vulnerable, gasping for air. I began, but my voice faltered, swallowed by the crowd that continued to flow past like a river indifferent to the rocks beneath. Marcus, looking too open and too sincere under the weight of my silence, pressed onward. Whatever happened, we can figure it out together. Just talk to me. The offer of conversation hung in the air, resplendent yet tainted with the past. I could almost see the lines of our memories playing behind his imploring gaze, the laughter, the late-night confessions, the day he walked away and took with him pieces of me I wasn't sure I could ever reclaim. But as I met his eyes, I remembered the pain, and it felt like a razor edge grazing my heart. A new wave of despair washed over me, mingling with the flickering ember of hope ignited by Leah. What if I allowed myself to trust again, to uncover the truth buried within my messy existence? Would it crumble beneath the weight of my brokenness, or would it finally breathe life into the resentful parts of my soul? The buzzing from my phone grew more insistent, as if demanding my surrender. I shot a glance back down at the screen, anxiety curling my fingers around the device. The words leaped out like venomous snakes, payment due immediately. Eviction notice still in effect. Time seemed to come to a halt. I could feel the frantic rhythm of my heart, each beat a reminder of how close I was to losing everything. My apartment me sanctuary turned cage was on the line, and with it, all hope of finding solace or rebuilding any semblance of a normal life. They'd have nowhere to go, my ghosts. Martin. Leah's whisper wrapped around me, her voice breaking through my spiraling thoughts. Finally, my gaze locked back on her face, and I felt something shift within. The steady kindness in her eyes transported me back to the few memories where I had dared to feel safe. I need to I began, the words stretching painfully in my chest. But then, the turmoil of not wanting to spill my fears over her sunny disposition cast shadows across my heart. I need to handle this together, she pressed gently. Suddenly, the world began to shift again, and I was no longer alone in this complex web of emotions. I felt the pull of Marcus' hesitance, but beside it was Leah's quiet strength. That strength encouraged me to let my guard down just a little, to peel back one layer of the wall I had constructed around myself. Just then, a sudden chill brushed against my skin, pulling me back to the reality that was neither picturesque nor convenient. I turned to Marcus. "Tell me the truth. Why did you really come back?" He hesitated, the moment stretching as though time freaked out and decided to play tricks on us all. The vulnerability etched into his face mirrored mine. We were two sides of a coin tossed carelessly into the chaos. "I need you to know I came back because I realized I was wrong when I left," he finally admitted, sadness tainting his voice. "I thought leaving would help me escape my own heaviness. I thought," his breath wavered. "I thought it might set you free too. I should have been there for you." Something inside me cracked, and I felt the rush of anger begin to melt away, replaced by a sorrowful understanding. For a moment, the room felt brighter, colors sharpening at the edges, revealing the intricate beauty of the world around us. I almost believed that love might just flourish in the cracks of hurt, but then, a figure stepped into my line of sight, a vibrant swirl amidst the muted tones of my emotional landscape. A stranger, with weary eyes yet a hopeful smile, approached. "Excuse me," she interrupted, her energy piercing the atmosphere, a reminder of the world beyond our encased feelings. I couldn't help but overhear the conversation. "Sorry to intrude, but I might have information that can help." My heart sank and soared in the same breath. Hope flickered, volatile, as I glanced between Marcus and Leah, uncertainty lodged in my throat. With all the shattered bits rushing through my mind, I questioned the randomness of her appearance. I also felt the ground shift beneath me, as that little flicker of light loomed ominously. "Help?" I echoed, my mouth dry. "Yes," the woman continued, unfazed by my incredulity. "I run a community initiative that helps people facing eviction. I know it feels hopeless, but there are resources available. Maybe we could talk." But just as I opened my mouth to respond, my phone buzzed again, an incoming call this time. My breath caught as the caller ID flashed, "Mom." Tension gripped my heart, and memories unfurled like moths caught in a flame. There was an unasked question growing heavy within me. Would I answer? Could I keep the threads of my life from unraveling further by returning to a reality I had tried so hard to escape? Or would I allow the sudden warmth of unexpected kindness to guide me through the chaos? And in that moment, caught between yearning for connection and the stories I still needed to confront, I understood the most crushing truth: the hardest battles aren't necessarily fought alone, but they are often revealed in the echoes of our choices. Now, standing on the precipice, I held my breath, ready to see where the next moment would lead me, even as the storm, beyond me, began to break. The room tilted on its axis as the call continued to ring, each chime echoing the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. I felt as if the universe was holding its breath, daring me to choose which path to take. My heart raced, both a reminder of the connection and a testament to the abandonment that had curled deep inside me. "Martin." Leah's voice brought me back from the precipice. She reached out, her fingers brushing against my forearm, grounding me amidst the swirling chaos. "You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but what if this is the moment I've been waiting for?" I murmured, entranced by the quiet strength emanating from her. What if it only complicates things further?" Marcus interrupted, his brow furrowed as though he felt the tug of my conflict himself. "You know what shall say the expectations, the judgment. Do you really want to open that door?" The truth of his words clung to the air, heavy and suffocating. I glanced back at the stranger, still standing there with hope illuminating her face, and a sliver of courage crept into the corners of my heart. "Not now. I'll talk to you when I'm ready," I said, finally cutting the connection before it could further unravel me. The relief was instantaneous, like lifting a weight off my chest, yet it came with a pang of guilt that gnawed deep within. The woman smiled gently but with distinction. There was an understanding in her eyes that pierced through my defenses. Fair enough. Just know that your struggles don't define you. They're merely chapters in your story. Her words sunk in like rain to parched earth, awakening something dormant inside me. I exchanged glances with Leah and Marcus, both uncertain yet eager for the next step. Thank you, I replied to the stranger, my voice barely above a whisper. But I don't know how to ask for help. Help doesn't always mean asking, she offered with a soft smile. Sometimes it begins with acknowledgement. You've done that. Just take it one step at a time. With that, she placed a small card in my hand and stepped away, leaving behind a lingering warmth as her figure faded into the crowd. Leah's expression captured the deep currents beneath the surface. That was unexpected, she said, glancing at the card I still clutched tightly. Yeah, I replied, the weight of her kindness hanging thick in the air. But what I need is to figure out my mess first. With a newfound determination, I faced Marcus. You said you realized leaving was wrong. What does that mean for us, for what we had? His expression shifted, embodying the shadow of regret. I wish I could take back the past, Martin. I never meant to hurt you. But can I ask? What about Leah? Does she know about us? I felt the tension knot in my gut, the undeniable truth coiling around the uncharted territories of my heart. I drew a breath, conscious of Leah's quiet presence beside me. She's been with me through my darkest moments, even when I didn't let her in completely. It's different with her. It's complicated. Marcus offered, a bitter smile disguising his pent-up emotions. Like shards of glass, I rasped. Each side of me battled in that instant, the agony of wanting to be open yet fearing the dissolution of the delicate connection that had begun to blossom. I can't keep you both in the dark, maybe it's the light we need, Leah interjected softly, her tone steady despite the tremor in her voice. Martin, you deserve to be honest about where you stand with both of us. Hiding will only drag us into more shadows. A moment of silence stretched between us, heavy with realization. I wanted to fight against the vulnerability, yet there was an aching hope born from the roots of shared honesty. But before I could formulate my words, my phone buzzed again, this time an unknown number. Another tormentor? Marcus quipped with a nervous chuckle that I rose to glance down, half expecting another automated reminder for overdue bills. But when I saw the message, my breath hitched. What? No, I murmured under my breath, as the words crushed into me like stones tumbling from a precarious cliff. It can't be. What is it? Leah leaned closer, and I felt her presence tighten like a lifeline. It's from the landlord, I whispered, saying they'll set the eviction date tomorrow if I don't come up with the rent by noon. My heart raced anew, the ground beneath my feet shook with every word I read. What do we do? Marcus asked, glancing between us with a mixture of concern and confusion, but Leah's gaze hardened with resolve. We fight this. Together. You don't have to face it alone. A seed of defiance sparked within me, stifled yet hot, urging me to confront this emerging storm. But how? The question unfurled, echoing the wall I had built, each brick steeped in shame and self-doubt. By reaching out, Leah replied, her voice laden with kindness. By telling the people who want to help, like that woman. And maybe even, she hesitated, her fists clenched. Maybe even starting with your mom. The suffocating weight of the past loomed over me, and I felt the primal fight against it ripple through my veins. The promise of connection brought both warmth and ice, a delicate balance of heartbreak and healing. But before I could respond, another thought intruded, an unexpected tremor ripping open the fabric of our fragile truce. What if the landlord wasn't the only one I would be forced to confront? What if the storm that had been brewing all along wasn't merely financial chaos, but something darker, tangled with family secrets and buried pasts? In that moment, as Leah and Marcus leaned closer, united against the darkness, I prepared to take a step forward. Yet the shadows deepened around us, feeling more pronounced than ever, and I knew one truth: as I reached for the light, those shadows might just reach back, ready to unsettle everything I thought I understood about love, loyalty, and the choices that bound us together. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on me as I stared into the gathering dusk outside, the sun retreating like a timid child hiding behind a curtain. Raindrops began to dance against the windowpane, tethering me to the inevitability of the chaos waiting to unfold. I could feel the storm within me mirroring the one brewing outside, a tempest of familial scars, tangled relationships, and the creeping dread of impending eviction gnawing at my core. Martin. Leah's voice broke through the silence, gently pulling me back to the moment. If we're going to tackle this together, I need you to tell me what you're really thinking. Her eyes held a fierce determination, and the warmth of her presence was a balm against the growing storm. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught like thorns in my throat, my insecurities battling against an earnest yearning for connection. It's complicated, I eventually said, feeling the fissures in my resolve crack further. There's so much I haven't spoken about: me past, my family, my fear of losing everything again. Then let's start with the truth, Marcus interjected, his brow furrowing with concern. You can't keep running from it. That will only hurt you more. I hesitated, memories clawing at the edges of my mind. How could I expose myself, knowing how fragile everything had been? The echoes of a childhood steeped in chaos danced around, arguments that erupted like volcanoes, tears that soaked pillows late at night, my mother's broken promises. Each fragment felt like a betrayal, a reminder of the fragility of trust. There were things about my family. About my mom and the way she used to. My voice faltered. It's just painful to think about. Pulling the card from my pocket, I grazed its surface as if seeking comfort from the words inscribed. The woman from earlier had been a beacon of light, but I found myself paralyzed by the looming shadows of my past. I don't even know where to start, but Leah shook her head, her expression softening. You start with what feels safe. You don't have to dive into the depths right away. We'll navigate this one step at a time, I promise. Exactly. Marcus nodded, drawing closer. And we can help you talk to your landlord. Maybe even speak to your mom with you two against one. If she lashes out, you won't be alone. My breaths became shallow, their words righted the balance of hope and despair teetering within me. I could call her, I murmured, grasping for a lifeline, a fragile thread woven from years of distance and silence. Let's do it, Leah urged, a hint of excitement sparkling in her eyes. I had never thought of her as a guiding light, yet in this moment, she felt like the sun breaking through storm clouds, illuminating the path ahead. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed. Each tone rang like a chisel against stone, echoing the weight of secrets yet to be uncovered. My mind raced with questions. What would I say? Would she lash out, or would she surprise me by being compassionate? The phone connected, and my heart drummed loudly in my ears as I heard her voice, strained yet familiar. Martin. Mama, I managed to say, the syllables like shards of glass lodged in my throat. I need to talk. It's important. I don't have time for your nonsense right now, she snapped, but there was an edge of worry in her voice. What is it? I'm struggling, I admitted, feeling the dam start to break at last. My rent is due, and the landlord is giving me 24 hours. I really need your help. For a moment, there was silence on the other end, a vacuum that grew heavier with every heartbeat. You should have made better choices, Martin, she coldly replied. You think I'm going to bail you out? Just like all the other times. Her words felt like ice stabbing into my chest, and I glanced over at Leah and Marcus, whose faces reflected a shared sense of anguish. I fought through the pain of my mother's rejection, compelled to stand firm against the onslaught of my past. I'm trying to be honest with you. I can't do this alone anymore. I can't do this with you, my mother retorted, her tone laced with venom. You've disappointed me for the last time. The call dropped, leaving a void that echoed in my heart. The realization cracked through the air. My mother's rejection was more commonplace than I'd hoped, her absence like an unwelcome specter. I blinked back the sting of tears, my fingers trembling against the phone. You did well, Leah whispered, the warmth of her connection wrapping around me like a protective shield. Her presence felt unwavering in the wake of my mother's harsh words. And now you know who she is. You can't change that, but you can choose to change how you react. Yes, you're not defined by her words or her actions," Marcus added, placing a reassuring hand between my shoulder blades. "Now we need to focus on how to get the rent together. We can regroup and brainstorm." Just as a flicker of resolve ignited within me, another notification chimed in. I pulled out my phone hastily, my heart dropping as I read the latest message. The landlord had changed the eviction date to tonight. My throat tightened, so uncertain, so cold, so abandoned yet electrified by my partner's warmth. But just as I felt the weight of everything crashing back down, Leah squeezed my hand, and I inhaled deeply the promise of their steadfast support whispering through the darkness. "We won't let this happen," Leah said, her voice steady and fierce. "We'll find a way." Together. As I looked to Marcus and Leah, I felt hope flickering wobbly within me, alive against the crushing weight of fear pressing in from all sides. But in the depths of that growing light, a foreboding thought took root, a nagging feeling that my struggle was only beginning. What if my mother's rejection wasn't just about money? What if the secrets entwined in our family were more tangled than I could ever imagine? The shadows encroached closer, yet here, right beside me, the light shone brighter, blinding and inviting. No matter the storm waiting to hit, there was an unexpected comfort found in companionship, a fragile promise in a world marred by betrayal and hurt, woven together by the raw threads of authenticity. But as I grappled with those threads, I knew I had to confront what lay ahead, a revelation looming on the horizon that could either bind us together or tear us further apart. The rain had intensified, cascading down the windows like 1,000 tiny waterfalls, each drop a relentless reminder of my turmoil. I pulled my gaze from the world outside, my heart heavy. Leah's grip on my hand was a steadying force, but beneath it, the tremors of uncertainty churned. "Martin, let's think about this logically," Marcus said, his voice cutting through the whispering winds. "We need a plan. If you can gather any important papers, we might be able to negotiate more time or find assistance." I nodded absently, but my mind was clouded. The memories of my childhood played like a film reel, projecting fears of inadequacy and the shame of needing help. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat a constant reminder of my mother's rejection. "I'll try," I whispered, only half convinced that as we rummaged through my old shoeboxes and stacks of dusty paperwork, the rain began to mostly drown out sounds of the world, enveloping us in a cocoon of focus. I pulled out old bills, eviction notices from my past, anything that might bolster our case. Each document felt like an anchor to my failures. But with every page I flipped, I felt a renewed determination to break free from the chains of old expectations. With Leah and Marcus diligently beside me, suddenly, the doorbell rang, shattering the silence that had settled amongst us. My heart leapt as I glanced at Leah and Marcus, anxiety bubbling within me. "Who could that be?" I asked, my voice a quiver. "Maybe it's your landlord," Marcus said, straightening his back, somber. "No." Panic surged through me. The last thing I needed was another confrontation, another blow beneath the belly of my already broken spirit. But as I approached the door, uncertainty licked at my heels. I opened it cautiously, only to be greeted by an unexpected face, a neighbor from a few doors down, Clara, with her radiant smile lighting up the rainy night. "Hey, I saw that you guys were struggling and wanted to know if you needed any help," she said. The genuine kindness in her eyes was a stark contrast to the storm outside. Clara had always been the friendly type, but her thoughtful offer felt like a warmth I hadn't anticipated. I hesitated, caught off guard. Actually, we are in a bit of a situation." I gestured back toward Marcus and Leah, who had now joined me by the door. "Is everything okay?" she asked, concern etching her features. I wanted to break the dam of my fears and let it all pour forth, but instead, I found myself nodding. Clara's disappointment in me felt like a weight. "It's just," I stammered, unable to weave my tumult into words. Then, her gaze shifted to Leah. "I remember seeing a bunch of people help each other out after that storm last month. I thought it might be nice to gather some friends and see if we could pitch in to help. I have some extra groceries and supplies I can share," Clara continued, her voice laced with an enthusiasm that felt contagious. Marcus' eyes flickered with realization, a small spark landing within the swirling storm of emotions. "Let's make it a community effort," he suggested. "It's not just about your rent, Martin. It's that sense of belonging we're all yearning for." That I felt hesitant, the sting of vulnerability holding me back as I thought of how I'd sought independence all these years, but the warmth radiating from Clara's openness pulled at something deep within. I think that would be great," I replied slowly, the words tenuous yet oddly uplifting. While Clara ran off to gather supplies, I returned to the living room where Leah and Marcus were deep in conversation, plans taking shape. It felt surreal. Here we were, all bound by the threads of hardship, yet somehow banding together to forge hope from despair. Later, as the sound of laughter danced in from Clara and the arrival of others, I couldn't help but feel a crack in the sturdy wall I'd erected. There was kindness around me, so palpable it almost brushed against my skin. Despite everything, I wasn't alone, but as the evening wore on, a nagging feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. I barely knew Clara. What if this unexpected kindness was simply a facade for something darker? Then, in the middle of a cheerful exchange, Clara's phone buzzed loudly, diverting her attention. She glanced at it with an expression that seemed to slip through her jovial facade, replaced for a split second by a grimace I couldn't quite decipher. Before I could ask about it, she returned, brushed a smile back on her lips, and slipped seamlessly, as if nothing had occurred. But I couldn't shake the unease. It nagged at me like an unanswered question, an unraveling thread that haunted my curiosity. As the night deepened and stories were shared, I found consolation in the warmth around me. But my sense of belonging was tinged with foreboding, the realization that with each flicker of kindness came the shadows of hidden truths. Just before everyone settled in for a round of board games, my phone buzzed again. I pulled it from my pocket, eyes widening as I read the message, shock coursing through me. The next payment I'd missed wasn't just rent. "Your mom's hospital bill is due," it read. That I looked up, my heart racing, the laughter around me dimmed, the joy of the evening morphing into a specter of guilt. While I fought for stability, another part of my life was unraveling behind me. The realization washed over me that my challenges weren't confined to just my struggle for rent. There remained layers I had yet to confront, secrets tightly woven with threads of family loyalty and sacrifice. As the laughter swelled again, I could feel the ground beneath me shifting, the earnestness of my companions juxtaposed against the chaos lurking deeper in my reality. The storm outside was only beginning to match the tempest of emotions brewing within, and while Clara's smile shone brightly, I now found myself unable to fully embrace her kindness until I confronted the storm in my own heart, a storm ready to expose buried truths, ones that could either lead to healing or fracture the fragile threads of newfound hope. The laughter echoed through the room, a bittersweet contrast to the turmoil brewing in my chest. I wanted to immerse myself in the warmth of the moment, to forget the message flashing on my screen, but my mother's name clung to my thoughts, burdening me like a shadow that refused to leave. Leah noticed the shift in my demeanor, her brow furrowing with concern. "Hey, you okay?" she asked softly, stepping closer and lowering her voice to avoid disrupting the playful chatter. I forced a smile, the kind that felt like a mask slipping over my vulnerability. "Yeah, just thinking about things," I replied, but my voice lacked conviction. "Like your mom?" she probed, her eyes searching mine for honesty. I nodded once, the weight of my reality pressing down harder. It felt like the tendrils of my past were coiling tighter around my throat. "Her bills are piling up again, and My voice trailed off, the words catching in my throat. What could I offer my mother that wouldn't be a feeble attempt at redemption? "Why don't you talk to her?" Leah suggested gently. "Maybe if you just reach out, she'll be willing to let you help." "Because I know how it ends," I sighed, tone heavy with resignation. "She won't want anything to do with me, but this is different," Leah insisted, optimism lacing her words. "You've changed. You're not that kid anymore. You can make a difference." A wave of warmth surged in my chest at her unwavering belief in me. Yet, I couldn't shake the dread that had settled in. It felt insurmountable, the years of distance and hurt that lay between us. "It scares me, Leah," I confessed, fiddling with the edge of my shirt. "What if I reach out and she shuts me down again?" "Then at least you tried," she replied, her voice steady and resolute. "But you won't know unless you take that leap." I admired her determination, but fear held its grip tight, casting a shadow over her light. Just as I began to reply, the room was filled with Clara's infectious laughter, drawing my attention away from my turmoil. She had just shared an embarrassing story about an old school project gone wrong, and her animated storytelling resonated around us. For a fleeting moment, I found solace in the joy emanating from her, yet, as the night wore on, the storm outside began rattling at the windows, and with it came a torrent of anxiety. People moved between games and laughter, and I could feel Clara's gaze sliding toward me now and then, as if she sensed the storm crossing the line of my facade. It made my stomach twist. "Hey, Martin." She interrupted my thoughts, her voice pulling me back into the present. "Do you play board games?" Feeling the pressure of everyone watching, I forced another smile. "Only when I'm losing," I joked, hoping to lighten the mood. But my attempt at humor felt hollow, overshadowed by my gnawing internal struggle. "Then you'll fit right in tonight," she grinned. "Well, need a punching bag for the next round of Monopoly." The laughter bubbled again, but just as I felt myself gaining momentum, Clara's phone buzzed again. She snatched it from the table, her smile faltering momentarily as her eyes flickered down to the screen. Could this be what I feared? That beneath the kindness she showed was something darker. "Everything okay?" I asked, my voice softer now. She looked up, masking whatever had crossed her features with another bright smile. "Yeah, just a family thing," she dismissed casually, yet something in her eyes didn't fully align. The tension crackled between us, a fragile thread caught in the storm. As the games rolled on, my focus shifted back to Leah and Marcus, but the nagging concern about Clara wouldn't let up. I couldn't shake the feeling that her kindness came with hidden stakes, and as more people entered our home, the atmosphere shifted like the wind before a storm. Moments ticked by, and with each casual glance and comparative laugh shared between friends, my heart grew heavier with a sense of futility. Even amidst the smile and chatter, the world felt increasingly isolating. Then, as the evening ebbed towards midnight, I found Clara moving to a quieter corner with her phone again. She wasn't alone, however. Concerned murmurs floated from her lips to another neighbor's ear, their whispered words a haunting melody stretching into the void. My instincts flared, and I tried to quell the anxiety that surged through me. Pushing through the gathering crowd, I approached, unable to silence the questions buzzing in my mind. "Clara?" I called softly. She turned, surprised to see me. "Oh, I was just. We can talk later." She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The pulling sensation in my gut raged like a tempest, urging me to confront it. "No, really. Is everything okay?" "Yeah, it's just stuff," she said shortly, shrugging it off, but the energy of her words dragged like lead. "Clara," I pressed, "I can't shake this feeling that there's more going on with you than you're letting on." Her mask slipped further then, exhaustion evident in the furrow of her brow. "Sometimes, when people offer help, there are strings attached. Just be careful, okay?" The warning thudded solidly between us, the laughter in the background fading away as the weight of her words punctuated my worries. Before I could respond further, a loud crash sounded from the adjacent room, diverting everyone's attention. The cheerful atmosphere splintered into anxious murmurs, and I watched Clara flinch at the noise before darting away to check on the commotion. Realizing I was standing isolated in the kitchen with the echoes of her words still resounding in my head, I felt like a spectator caught in the web of misunderstandings. What had I offered her that could warrant such suspicion? And why did I feel more hollowed out than before? Just as I steeled my resolve, intending to find out the truth or force my mother's name from my lips, Marcus appeared beside me, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" he whispered urgently. "Something just smashed." "Yes," I replied softly, a part of me already sensing that the answers I sought were going to unravel before me. My heart raced as dread mingled with anticipation, realizing that night's unraveling was far from over, and the storm outside was now echoing the tempest within. In an unexpected twist of fate, I found myself teetering on the edge of revelations both within myself and the nature of the community that had reached out to me in kindness. The night, with its laughter and shadows, held secrets I needed to confront head-on, but with every step further into the unknown, the stakes attached to my journey grew higher. And as I moved to follow Clara into the living room, the crescendo of uncertainty surged, shadows deepening, as I braced for whatever storms awaited on the other side. The sound of laughter and shuffling feet echoed through the living room as I edged closer, curiosity throbbing in my chest like an unwieldy drum. Clara was at the center of a crowd, her expression frantic yet held the kind of mask I had worn too often myself. I could see people gathered around something as whispers of confusion flowed through the air, and instinctively I pushed my way to the front. When I broke through the circle, my heart sank. A lamp lay shattered on the floor, remnants of glass glistening like tears against the backdrop of my tumult. In the middle of the frenzy, I spotted Leah, her brow knitted as she bent to help clean up the mess. But it wasn't just the lamp, the atmosphere pulsed with an urgency I sensed coursing beneath the surface. "Are you all right, Clara?" I asked, stepping up beside her, my voice cut through the murmur that settled like a thick fog. The moment was fragile, and I felt the weight of unspoken truths simmering between us, straining at the seams of the kindness we all strive to share. Clara turned her gaze toward me, surprise briefly flickering across her features. "Yeah, just this is my fault. I knocked it over. I'm so sorry." Her voice trembled slightly, an edge of distress clinging to her words. It was just a lamp, but somehow, it felt symbolic, was that a reflection of our collective fragility, the delicate balance we all walked. "It's okay," I offered softly, willing her to meet my gaze. "We're all a little lost right now." The laughter around us began to fade, replaced by an uncomfortable silence that twisted like a coiled spring, and I wondered what it would take to unravel it. Clara had shown me warmth, yet beneath it I sensed layers of pain. "What's really going on? The truth?" she whispered, glancing quickly around the room before lowering her voice further. "I'm scared. I'm worried I won't be able to pay my bills next month either. My family, they relied on me." If I fail, her words trailed off, a heartbreak brewing in the open space between us, and in that moment, I recognized the cracks forming in her sunshine facade. "That's a lot to carry alone," I replied, my empathy wrapping around her like a protective cloak. "You don't have to." "I know," she whispered, a barely there acknowledgement that encircled both our vulnerabilities. "But sometimes it's easier to pretend." I wanted to assure her maybe together, we could find solace in honesty, yet uncertainty lingered, tripping the words on the tip of my tongue. Just then, Leah's voice rang clear. "Let's clean up this mess, and then we can everyone settle into play." The shift in her tone was contagious, the shadows around us seemed to break momentarily, allowing light to seep through. As we all pitched in, the shards of glass became symbols of hope instead of destruction. We were weaving resilience together in the cramped room as Clara's tension began to ease. Laughter bubbled back into the atmosphere, revolving around shared experiences, and soon, the board games resumed their throne. Leah turned to me once more, her eyes dancing with energy. "You know, it's all going to work out," she said, her confidence like a warm ember. I wanted to agree. I wanted to feel that certainty too. Yet the evening washed over me like gales rolling across a darkened sea. Those layers of regret still clung to me. I watched Clara's face light up when she rolled a double and felt something shift in my heart. Perhaps we all wore our burdens a little differently, and it was time for me to unmask the pieces of me I had forbidden others to see. With each roll of the dice, a connection deepened, and the universality of our discomfort began to unfurl itself among us. I saw Marcus slip back into old habits, teasing Clara about her imminent bankruptcy with a tenderness that spoke to the history they shared. It was as if we were all training ourselves to surface from the depths of our different storms. As the game pressed on and Clara shared more of her childhood tales, the walls I had erected began to fracture, and slowly I felt the uneven tug of bravery pulling at my heart. I turned to Leah, who had been quietly immersed in her game, eyes twinkling with fervor. "I think I'm ready to tell them to tell you." Her eyes widened, catching the seriousness settling on my face. As I took a steadying breath, the sounds around us faded into a background hum, and all that remained were the truths lurking just beneath the surface. Listen, I've been carrying secrets for a long time. About my mom and the hospital bills, about my debts. With each word that fell from my lips, the air felt lighter, like letting a bird free from its cage. I've been drowning in my past, pretending I'm someone I'm not. But no more. I can't continue to hold on to the fear of rejection. Leah's grip tightened around my hand, and I could see her encouraging smile urging me to continue. I should have been there for her, for my family, I continued. Booty spent so long running, thinking if I distanced myself from my childhood, from my mom, I could start fresh. Martin, none of us are perfect, Leah interrupted softly. But facing it head-on is what counts. They need to face the consequences of their choices. Me choices, I said, determination coursing through me. And I need to stop hiding. I turned to everyone around us, Leah, Marcus, Claire, me, newfound strength traveling on every pulse of sincerity. Let's step out of our disguises, I proposed, sincerity gripping my heart like a lover's embrace. Let's allow ourselves to be human. In that moment of vulnerability, a floodgate opened, and I found courage whispering two simple words, help me. The truth washed over me, emboldened, like the pouring rain outside, relentless yet cleansing. As the night continued, the laughter around the room transformed into something profound, a vivid declaration of our shared experiences, our struggles woven together like a tapestry. And just as relief began to settle in, a sudden vibration startled us as a phone buzzed against the table. Clara quickly grabbed her device, frowning down at the screen. It's my mom. I bet her. Those words hung heavily in the air, silencing the optimism bursting through the room. My heart raced, a tide of concern washing over me. The intimacy we had just shared felt fragile against the weight of her impending conversation. Clara stepped outside, her expression unreadable, and for a moment, I felt time hang in balance, emotions swirling like a tempest in the darkened space around us. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were all standing on the edge, teetering between the branches of what could be and what was bound to decay. Then the storm broke, pounding against the windows, drumming a manifesto to remain strong. I felt it echo deep within, a reminder that while the elements outside raged, perhaps they could also offer renewal. We'll be here when she comes back, Leah said, her voice steady against the chaos. Taking a breath, I nodded, accepting the shift in atmosphere with profound gratitude. And in the meantime I turned to Marcus. I think it's time we come together. There's no reason we can't help each other, right? Right, Marcus replied, an encouraging smile breaking across his face, and I could feel solidarity pulsing through our words. And in that moment, in this little refuge forged through laughter and honesty, my heart began to shift like someone opening up to the dawn. The truth was still waiting to dawn upon us all, hearts bared before one another, a room needing only the flicker of acceptance and vulnerability to ignite a bright new beginning. As Clara stepped back into the circle, her face still holding shadows, I understood that we'd have to weather this storm together. Leaning closer to Leah, squeezing her hand tighter, I felt an unshakable sense of togetherness, fragile yet resilient, rising above the storm outside, aspiring to delve deeper into our truths that would continue to ripple through our evolving stories. And as the rain poured outside, the downpour became ours to embrace, no longer heavy but baptized in hope. Why don't we play another round? Clara suggested, her voice a little more tentative but filled with hope. And with that, we dove back into the flood of Connect Iona, reminder that though the storm was raging, we would continue to affect one another, calming hearts amidst chaos as we knit our lives together into something beautiful. I smiled outwardly, feeling that maybe, just maybe, we could navigate this storm after all. The hidden battle still loomed heavy in the background, but perhaps that only meant we'd become stronger. Side by side, facing down the shadows that life seemed to throw at us, we breathed, laughed, and began this journey together, unashamedly real and finally, irrevocably free. And as the night deepened, laughter echoing through the room like a beacon rising above the storm, I felt the flicker of light taking root within me, a promise that no matter what lay ahead, we would find our way through the turbulence together.